The day began deceptively gentle across the South Dakota prairies, with a rare January warmth. Children walked to school, farmers tended livestock, all unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. Without warning, a monstrous cloud descended, transforming the world in minutes. Temperatures plummeted, winds howled, and blinding snow erased all sense of direction. To be caught outside was to be lost in a freezing void. Survival became a desperate struggle. Snow forced its way into homes, the wind drowned out all sound, and many became disoriented just steps from safety. This was no ordinary storm. It was the infamous schoolhouse blizzard, a white fury that would claim the unprepared. The pioneers were tough, but this blizzard was beyond anything they'd faced. It was a test of endurance, foresight, and community. On a small farmstead near Scotland, one man's peculiar project was about to face its ultimate test. His name was John Schmidt, and he had built a tunnel. The storm would soon reveal if his strange idea was madness or genius. John Schmidt, a German immigrant, knew the prairie's dangers well. He'd seen storms turn a short walk to the barn into a deadly ordeal. For John, the 100 feet between house and barn could mean life or death in a blizzard. His solution? Dig a tunnel connecting the two. Neighbours scoffed, but John saw it as common sense. His livestock and family's safety depended on it. The tunnel would be a weatherproof link, an insurance policy against the worst the plains could offer. He started in his cellar, digging toward the barn, moving earth by hand. The work was grueling, but John was undeterred by laughter or whispers. To others, it was eccentricity. To John, it was survival. He built for a storm he knew would come, not for approval. With every shovelful, he prepared for the day when foresight would matter most. And that day was about to arrive. News of John's tunnel spread quickly, met with disbelief and ridicule. Neighbours watched, shaking their heads, asking why he didn't just use a guide rope like everyone else. Children whispered about Tunnel John, and men laughed at the general store. They saw his project as a waste of time, a sign he'd lost touch with reality. But John knew ropes could snap or vanish under snow, and whiteouts made even simple paths deadly. He listened politely to the jeers, then returned to his work. His persistence only deepened the community's skepticism. They mistook his foresight for paranoia, his diligence for obsession. But John wasn't building for their approval. He was building for survival. The laughter was just noise to a man with a purpose. Soon the wisdom of his tunnel would be put to the ultimate test. John's tunnel was a feat of simple pioneer engineering. Day after day he dug from his cellar toward the barn, lining the passage with heavy timbers for strength. The tunnel sloped gently for drainage, was tall enough to walk through, and had sturdy doors at each end. It was more than a crawl space, it was a functional weatherproof walkway. When finished, it stretched 100 feet, connecting home and barn beneath the frozen ground. Outsiders saw a crude hole. John saw a lifeline. He'd built a passage immune to wind, snow, and cold. The project was complete just as the sky began to darken. The whispers about Tunnel John hadn't faded when the storm arrived. Now his tunnel would face its true purpose. On January 12, 1888, the world outside John's farmhouse was eerily calm. Sensing danger, John kept his family inside and entered the tunnel with a lantern. He moved quickly to the barn, bringing his animals in before the storm struck. The blizzard hit with sudden, violent force. Winds howled, snow blinded, and the temperature plunged. Any thought of returning outside was impossible. Survival depended on the tunnel. With his animals safe, John re-entered the tunnel, shutting out the storm's roar. Inside there was calm and the steady light of his lantern. He walked back to his house, emerging safely in the cellar. His family was not cut off. They had a safe passage through the heart of the storm. The crazy man's tunnel was now a sanctuary. Outside, chaos reigned. Inside, John's foresight kept his family safe. The tunnel had proven its worth. Survival was no longer a matter of luck, but of preparation. As the blizzard raged, John worried about his animals in the barn. The fine snow, driven by wind, seeped into every crack, threatening to suffocate the livestock. With his tunnel, John could reach the barn safely, something impossible for anyone else. Inside, he found his horses struggling for air, snow piling in the stalls. The tunnel became more than a passage. It was a vital source of fresh air. John propped open the barn door to the tunnel, letting oxygen flow in and stale air out. Slowly the animals' breathing eased, panic subsided, and the barn became livable again. Without the tunnel, they would have perished. John's strange project had saved them twice, first from the storm, then from suffocation. His tunnel was now a life-sustaining system, not just a shelter. Preparation had made all the difference. As the storm raged, a new crisis struck. John's neighbour, Miller, burst into the cellar, frantic. His son Peter was lost in the blizzard, last seen heading to their barn. Remembering the tunnel he once mocked, Miller had fought his way to Schmidt's barn and found the passage. John didn't hesitate. With Miller and his own son, he grabbed lanterns and ropes and entered the tunnel. From the barn they shouted Peter's name into the storm, their voices nearly lost in the wind. For agonizing minutes there was no answer. Then, faintly, a cry. Guided by the sound, they directed Peter toward the barn. The boy, half frozen and disoriented, stumbled into their arms. They rushed him through the tunnel to the warmth of the house. The tunnel had not just saved livestock, it had saved a child's life. The project, once ridiculed, was now a haven for the desperate. In the heart of the storm, John's foresight became the community's salvation. The tunnel's true value was undeniable. For 3 days, the blizzard battered the Dakota Territory. When it ended, the landscape was buried, and tragedy was everywhere. Many perished just steps from safety, livestock suffocated or froze. But on the Schmidt farm, not a single life was lost. John, his family and young Peter survived in warmth and safety. The tunnel, once a joke, was now a symbol of wisdom and courage. Neighbours who had mocked John now came to thank him, humbled by his foresight. The pile of earth behind his house was no longer folly, but a monument to preparation. The lesson was clear. Preparation is not paranoia, but quiet courage. In the harshest classroom, the prairie, they learned that foresight saves lives. The crazy man had been the wisest of them all, and his tunnel became a legend of survival on the plains.